You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, Hopkinton, and welcome to the Monday edition. It is Monday, I believe, the Monday edition of Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm Mike Terosian, your host today, and my co-host joining me is the boss, Jim Cousins. Hi, Jim.
Hello, Mike. How you doing?
Doing great downtown here. The weather's beautiful out here, and got the fountain running, virtual fountain. Yeah, we're all set there. And with us today, we'll have Chris Alejandro. We have James Villani and Stephen Campbell joining us to talk about the Knights of Columbus and the Helping Hands program. So we're going to start things off with Chris. Chris, you are the Grand Knight of the Bishop Wright Council, I believe.
That is correct, Mike, and thanks for having us on here today.
So my first question, and a lot of people's question is, what are the Knights of Columbus?
Well, again, thanks for having us on. And most importantly, we're going to have Jim and Stephen talk about a couple programs. But the Knights of Columbus actually is an organization that was founded almost 140 years ago here in New England. It was started in 1882 by Father Michael McGivney, who was a Catholic priest down in New Haven, who wanted to organize some Catholic men in their belief, but also to provide assistance to Catholic families that may have needed help. Those are pretty horrendous times back then, a lot of hard working conditions, and there's a lot of folks without a man in the house to earn an income, which was the only way to do it back then. So the Knights of Columbus were really organized to help people in need back then, and since then, it has grown. Today, there are almost 2 million Knights of Columbus worldwide, not just here in the United States. We are in one council. There are over 16,000 councils around the world. And, our principles are primarily based upon charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. And those are the fundamental tenets that we believe and we work in every single day. Locally here in Ashland, Hopkinton, that's the council that we operate. It's called the Bishop Rice Council. We just had our 60th anniversary last year. We were named after Bishop William Aloysius Rice, who was a Framingham priest who turned out to be a bishop and had some family in Hopkinton. We have 162 brothers here in Hopkinton and Ashland, and we serve both St. Cecilia's Church and St. John's here in Hopkinton as well. And, what we really like to do is the way the Knights call it is it's faith in action, where we like to come together as a group. We're all Catholic men. We all want to help our community and help our parish, and we want to do more. So our faith in action really is helping out with, we have faith aspects of that. We have family aspects of that. The faith aspects, we do a number of different faith activities like prayer groups and what have you. The family activities, we do a big food for families organization around Lent typically, but this year because of the COVID situation, we did it all virtually. We raised over $1,500 for the local food pantries here in town and in Ashland as well. We do a lot of life programs. We do a Special People Field Day, which is an event specifically for the folks with special needs in the community. And we do a lot of community activities such as free throw contests and soccer challenges and what have you.
I remember seeing the last free throw contest was at the Hopkinton High School right before everything got shut down. As I was packing up the equipment, the guys, I think Bill Munch and a few others, I saw you setting out the trophies, getting ready for your free throw contest.
Yeah, exactly. And those are some of the things that we like to do for sure. We want to do a lot more. We really, our mission, our number one mission is charity. And that doesn't mean giving money to folks, although we do that. It's really a helping hand where we want to help people in the community, whatever that might be.
Right. So that's your main mission is charity. That's fantastic. A lot of people ask, is there any connection to Christopher Columbus with the Knights of Columbus?
Well, hence the name. So back in the 1880s or so, Christopher Columbus, he was a very popular Catholic person. And he was really an idol for a lot of folks because he, at least at the time, according to history at that time, was the one that discovered America. So with Father McGivney started the organization, he thought, who better to name this organization except for Christopher Columbus, because he's a strong Catholic and he's got a strong, explorer mentality.
All right. So you started, and I don't know if I cut you off, but you started naming some of the community programs that you host. Did you get to finish them all, or would you like to explain what each one is?
Well, we have too many of them, actually.
That sounds like a tough problem to have.
Well, I can't say we have too many because that's not true. And one of the things we're doing a lot lately is attempting to recruit as many new knights as possible, because we get called on to do a lot of new projects and programs. And the more people we have, the more we can do. So we have some year in and year out things, such like I mentioned, and you acknowledged, the free throw contest. We have a soccer challenge, which is for the kids to pick some soccer goals and win some prizes. We have a special People's Field Day. We have Keep Christ in Christmas poster contest year in and year out. But we need to deploy and to be able to change rapidly when things happen. And when this COVID-19 situation came up, a lot of things happened that we quickly were able to deploy. And Stephen's going to talk about one and Jim's going to talk about another one. But a few other things that we were called into action for is typically we host a blood drive once a year in Ashland and once a year in Hopkinton. And within the first few weeks of the Corona situation, under the leadership of the past Grand Knight, Bill McGinnis, we actually organized under pretty, tedious conditions, 2 blood drives here at St. John's. And I think just a hair over 70 people were able to come in, and they had to get their temperatures checked, and we had to be all suited up. But we were able to organize a pretty successful set of blood drives with the American Red Cross. And even more recently, as Governor Baker relaxed some of the restrictions, both St. Cecilia's in Ashland and St. John's had called on the Knights to help in preparing the churches for opening up so the community could get back into the pews. And that ranged from simple cleaning of some of the pews and getting rid of some of the materials to actually acting as ushers to get people in. So I can't say we do too much because we can never do too much, but we would like to do a lot more at the same time.
So if I could ask a question, listening to your description of the organization, it's really interesting. I see you have a strong faith-based connection and community there. So I'm wondering, as being a member, for being part of leadership, do you align with any particular church or diocese, or does your staffing go through any kind of training regarding your faith?
So let me answer that a few different ways, and I'll do it briefly. So to be a Knight of Columbus, there are just a few, and I'll get to your question. There are just a few criteria. The first and main one is you have to be a practicing Roman Catholic. That's the first one. So, and then the second is, the next two are related. You need to be 18 years old and you need to be a male. It's open to male Roman Catholics at this point. So we are all in the same faith. We support two parishes here in Ashland and Hopkinton because those happen to be the only 2 parishes that there are in Ashland and Hopkinton. And as a result, we work closely with those two parishes. I think you had asked if there any sort of additional training to go along with that to some extent. And, formal training as it comes to faith, that's not necessarily something that happens, but we're doing all sorts of informal training around our faith, including spiritual reflection, which is essentially like Bible studies and what have you. But, the faith bonds us together, and the faith brings us together. So all of us have the same background, and most of us, we would say, have the same overall belief. So that's a common goal, and we take that as an initiative to help out others.
So you mentioned training. So would training be any kind of like funny costumes and special rituals that you guys do?
Yeah, so the organization was created 140 years ago, and things are a lot different today. I'm sure there's not many organizations today that would limit it to 18-year-old males and over. That's one thing for sure. So there were a lot of rituals in the past, and there was a lot of secrecy around a lot of the rituals in the past. And just recently, actually, just in the last few months, in the spirit of transparency, the Knights changed a lot of their, quote, rituals. When you become a Knight, in the past, you'd have to go through a very closed ritual with things, and you were sworn to secrecy, and it was a little goofy, frankly, but it was leftover traditions from the 1800s. Then we realized, listen, we're doing a lot of good things for the community. And so why should we have any of this cloak of secrecy around us? And the new initiation is open to all the public. So anyone can participate in the watch. So your family, friends can sit and watch. And that was something not done in the past. There are 4 degrees of the Knight. Now, when you join, you automatically become a 3rd degree. In the past, you have to go through 3 rituals to do that. But the 4th degree is kind of an elevated degree. And in the past, if you got that degree, then you indeed got the whole fancy little costume with big fuzzy hats and swords and all of that. And then they decided that was time to move a little bit different.
I remember those from, I grew up in Malden. I remember seeing the Knights in all the parades up in the
That's
parade
right.
and so
So they've
forth.
kind of
That's why I asked
changed.
that question. Yeah.
They've kind of changed with the times. And even though to be a Knight, you have to be a Catholic male, all of our programs are for the community. And so even though the 2 programs that Jim and Stephen are going to talk about, we help the community, but we also invite the community to help us at the same time.
Well, speaking about funny costumes, though, there is one that you have left, and I love this the most, is the Tootsie Rolls. You tell us about the Tootsie Rolls.
That's right.
What is the deal with Knights and Tootsie Rolls?
Well, that's a very common question we get, Mike. So and I remember this growing up as a kid. My father was a Knight, and you'd see once in the fall, you'd see just like in Christmas time, people ringing the bell for Salvation Army collecting money. You'd see the Knights of Columbus with these yellow vests collecting money and giving out Tootsie Rolls. And so what that is actually, and here we do it on Veterans Day weekend, Veterans Day, I think that's in October, and this is the Knights all around New England and all around the country, we organize and we wear our yellow vests and we have Tootsie Rolls and we basically collect spare change and folding money and give out Tootsie Rolls as little trinkets, but we're raising money for those with intellectual disabilities, both here locally in the community and all around New England. Every year we raise a couple $1,000 typically just in our council, and then in the state there's tens of thousands of dollars raised, and we pour that back into the community itself. So
not just the raising of funds, you have the other programs. I'd like to talk about those too, and I'd love to hear about the Helping Hands program.
Yeah, so let me turn it over to Brother Stephen Campbell, who's been running our COVID-19 Helping Hands, and he can talk all about that.
Thank you, Chris. Very good. So maybe I'll just start with what is the Helping Hands program. It's something we've been running for best part of, I guess, almost 3 months now, and started in the middle of March. It's basically a neighbors helping neighbor initiative. So we have a bunch of volunteers, men and women. We're knights and friends, not just knights, but we found that a lot of people during this time, they want to help out, they want to do something, and so this is a way where neighbors can help neighbors do shopping, groceries, prescription pickup, take folks to the doctor, and it's really focused on those in the most need. You know, the most vulnerable among us, those in high risk categories in terms of the virus. So we have most of our folks are elderly. Some of them are not. We've got a handful who are just immunocompromised. They maybe have some conditions that predispose them to much higher risk. But most of them are seniors. So we got folks in their 80s and 90s, some in their 70s, and we help them out with basic errands. You know, that's what the program is.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of times, I mean, some of these people can't even get their family to visit and do things for 'em,
Exactly.
and you guys were able to connect it. If it was now, if there was something that you couldn't do, would you help and try to find them a service to help them, or does it stop
Yeah.
with just the volunteers?
Yeah, we're pretty clear. We're not a medical, you know, we're not a health service. We're not a 911. We make that very clear. But also, we're kind of hooked into the senior center communities in both towns. So they have wonderful staff. The nursing communities in both towns and the human services departments in both towns. So we work closely with those three areas, and they give us referrals, and you know, we work hand in hand. So that's real good. We got two wonderful towns with wonderful staff, and if they sense there's somebody in need, then they'll give us a call. And equally, we reach out to them and say, hey, we got this service, you know, if there's anybody in need, give us a call. We have one telephone number and two email addresses. If I may read out the telephone number, Mike. So folks who are in need can give us a call and leave a voicemail. That's St. John's number, 508-435-3313, extension 214. So that's 508-435-3313, extension 214. Or you can drop us an email at hopkintonhelp@gmail.com or ashlandhelp@gmail.com. And I track those every couple of hours and respond to them.
Right. And so you have the network hitting, take care of the responses, and then you have the volunteers. Is it just the Knights that are doing it, or is it just church members? Who's helping? Who's doing the actual help?
We have folks, mostly are parishioners and Knights, or family members of Knights, or you know, church members, family members. But we also have non-parishioners, folks who just want to help out. This is not an exclusive club. We do ask that people go through a background check. So we get everybody CORI cleared. It's a simple process.
Sure.
And that's for, you know, their protection and everybody else's protection. And we do tend to, you know, suggest you have a driver's license. We've got a couple of high school seniors who are helping out, but you know, they can drive, they can do the shopping. So there's no age limit either, no gender limit, and no faith, you know, any faith or non-faith. Atheists are welcome too.
This is helping through the crisis, and you're just gathering the people to do it. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
So do you have any trouble picking up meds at a pharmacy for people? You know, can anyone just walk in?
It's a good question. Unless it's a controlled substance, Mike, it's generally you show your license, and you know, the pharmacists are very used to proxies picking up prescriptions for folks, friends, family. So you do have to show your license, and they record that. But if it's a controlled substance, then we'll need to get some kind of authorization in writing. But that's rare. We I actually don't think we've had one of those yet in terms of controlled substances.
So are you planning for the long term? Because, you're here with the new normal and people say that the COVID crisis isn't going to end until everyone has their vaccination shot. Are you planning on continuing this program throughout?
So I'll give my opinion on that, but we work as a council,
Yep.
and we vote on how we allocate our resources, and we have to be able to pivot when things change, and
Sure.
we can't predict the future, but we focus on the areas of highest need, and this, I believe, will continue to be one of those areas for the foreseeable future, and that's how I see it. But things can change. Chris, you maybe want to comment in terms of long term.
It's hard to predict the future for sure, but there's no reason to think that we have a deep enough pool right now, Mike, that I think that we're happy to continue to move forward as long as our services are needed.
Sure. So you're continuing to update things as the state updates how, like here we are, today's first day of phase 2, and things are opening up a little bit more. So you may not be doing things as much, I can see that happening. And so it's nice to know that at least you're still meeting and thinking about it.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely.
less.
Yeah, this is a long term. We're in this for the long haul. Phase 2 is somewhat arbitrary, in my opinion. The virus hasn't changed that much. If you look at the numbers, the number of cases are still going up. The number of deaths, thankfully, is going down. Number of hospital beds and so on. But we have to be where this is a marathon we're in, and we're still in. I don't know if we've, got to Heartbreak Hill or wherever, but we got a lot of running still to do here.
We can't even make it to the starting line until next year, but that's okay.
One other last thing on that, Mike, is obviously the task is to usually provide some discrete service, pick up a bag of groceries, do this, do that. But what we found out is, what's more equally important, if not more important, is the bond that we seem to have created with the recipient and the person in need. And sometimes, it's a 2-minute delivery, but then it ends up turning into be an hour conversation, understand how these people are feeling and thinking, and being a companion at the same time.
And I guess that's even easier now that everyone's usually stuck at home. You love seeing other people, and then you wind up talking forever.
Yeah, especially seniors, Mike, because they're not getting the family members visiting. Some of the family members were out of state. They're not able to travel. The senior folks generally are being asked to not welcome visitors at this point because of the risks to them. So there is there's an isolation there. So I think the just reaching out and giving somebody a call and checking in on them, that's part of what we're doing here. And I want to give a shout out to Jim, because this was Jim's brainchild. He came up with the idea middle of March when he was predicting that there was going to be a need here. And between Jim and Chris, they put together the process. And I happen to have inherited it, but they were the ones who initiated it, especially Jim, who was the...
Yeah, Jim was the
Steven got stuck doing all the work.
Well,
we came up with the idea. Steven's doing all the work.
Most of you guys don't know that James and I go way back. We were neighbors for many years ago, and so we go way back. And I know Jim is the idea guy, but when it comes to doing work, I don't. He's got.
Hey, come on!
Oh man!
So
I think that's uncalled for.
Now, am I assuming this COVID Helping Hands came after the Milford Daily Bread Helping Hand?
It did.
That what's now? I hear you talking about Hopkinton and Ashland. Now I'm hearing Milford. So explain this program for me, Jim.
Okay, so the Milford Daily Bread, just to know who they are, the Milford Daily Bread's an organization. They're in Milford. It's a food pantry. It serves Hopedale, Upton, and Milford, and anybody in those communities. And it was set up back in 1991 by two people who live in Milford, John and Cheryl D'Angelo. They came up with the idea to start a food pantry because there wasn't one in the community. They reached out to quite a few of the churches of all different denominations in the area, and were sponsored by 7 across that 3 towns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they started. They got funding from those 7 churches and from some personal donations, some of their own cash, and they started the Milford Daily Bread. And that's what they've been doing now for the last almost 30 years, since 1991. And they ended up buying a building, which is just off of Main Street in Milford. But they've been doing this for 30 years. They feed anywhere in a normal cycle between 250 to 300 families per month. Although right now it's almost doubled because of COVID.
Sure.
But they are very, very active in the community.
That's great. And how did they get their start? What was their official? What was the need? What was it? One person? Was it one group? Was it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know exactly, what gave Cheryl and John that initial, idea to say, hey, look, this community needs a food pantry. I'm assuming it's because they noticed the need in the church for the help, and they noticed the families that needed the food, and there wasn't a food pantry in the community. They've done an amazing job running the organization. The entire operation for the last 30 years, 100% volunteer. There's not a single person that works there for a salary. There's not a single person that makes any money off of the pantry. It's entirely funded by donations, both some government funding, as well as the churches and some people. In fact, that's how we got involved from Hopkinton. Is John and Cheryl presented to the Hopkinton Country Club Charitable Foundation, in which they connected with Chris, and then Chris connected them back to the Hopkinton Ashland Knights of Columbus. The interesting thing is, you'd say, well, how come we're engaged there? There's really 2 reasons, right? First is, our charitable work, as Christians, as Catholics, as Knights, it doesn't stop at the borders of our town. So the fact that they're Milford or Upton or Hopedale makes no difference, right? There's people in need, so we go where we can go. The other thing is, we happen to, if you looked at the average age of the Knights of Columbus around this country, we happen to be on the younger side. Even though we're a bunch of older guys sitting here on the call, generally speaking, the work that has to be done at the food pantry, it's labor intensive. We pick up anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 pounds of food every week. We take a box truck out to Shrewsbury. There's a food bank in Shrewsbury. It's called the Worcester County Food Bank.
County, yep.
We go out there. It's a big warehouse. There's pallets and pallets of food, and we go and we shop every single week. Every single Tuesday, we go out there on Tuesday morning. We pick up, depending upon how much room is on the shelves in the pantry back in Milford, we'll pick up 5, 6, 7, 8,000 pounds of food. We'll take it back to the pantry and unload it and stock the shelves. We also go to local stores, Aldi's and Stop and Shop and Big Y and the dollar store, and buy additional outside of the food. There's toiletries, there's personal items, there's laundry detergent, toothbrushes, toothpaste. That food pantry covers everything, including, when they can get their hands on it, coats and shoes and other items that are needed. So they help the community. They serve a tremendous purpose.
Now,
and so we do what we can to help them.
That's excellent. Is there a website or an email address that goes with that, or do you use the other?
Yeah. So if someone wanted to reach out and help, they could do so. The person that they would want to contact is Cheryl D'Angelo. She runs the food pantry, has for almost the last 30 years. Their website is dailybreadfoodpantry.org. So dailybreadfoodpantry.org. And the phone number there is 508-478-4225. So that's so if you wanted to go, look, they have a lot of need. It's not just what we do in terms of the heavy lifting in and out, but there's a ton of sorting that goes on there into bags that then get distributed, nightly to families that come in. So It runs around the clock, really. It's not 24/7, but it runs day and night. It's like I said, it's 100% volunteer organization, so they could always use a few additional helping hands.
That's
Okay,
fantastic.
well, that's really great. And I know Mike is about to wrap it up on me, but Chris, I wanted just really briefly, we did get a comment on YouTube wondering if you ever consider allowing women to join. And the reason I wanted to ask you that is because you had talked about how the Knights of Columbus are changing with the times and how some of the traditions you do and you don't do. So I'm just curious if that's a conversation that you're having now.
That's a great question. And it's not the first time we've heard that question. And in this day of inclusivity, it's very reasonable. I'll say that decision is way above the heads of our council. That's a decision that has to be made at corporate Knights of Columbus. But we do our best. We do our best to be inclusive on all the projects and programs that we possibly can.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the work that you do in our communities, all of you, Chris, James, and Stephen.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Guys, good to see you again. Nice to meet you, Chris and Steve. James, I'll see you around.
Okay.
We got to wrap up because I got this. I got the big guy Hopkinton here, the police chief, just waiting to get in and chat with us. So as Chief Bennett here comes in, turns on his mic and has to join with the audio and get his camera going. Here we go.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, gang. Take care.
Thanks.
So for the second half, we have Hopkinton Police Chief Joe Bennett joining us. And we're going to talk about what's been going on here with where we started our phase 2, but it's been a couple weeks since we spoke to him, and we want to know, hey, Chief, what's going on in town? We just got to get your camera on. Start your video, bottom left-hand corner there. Yep. There you go. Yeah, come on. Hey, there you are.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Bob. Hi, Chief.
So, okay, we're been a few weeks since we last talked. How is the wonderful policing have been in this community with COVID-19 through phase 1?
Yeah, we're doing all right. We've adopted a lot of ways that we've spoken about, you and I, before. The way we handle calls and the way we work within the building. So we're still doing everything that we were in since the beginning. You call us to your home, instead of getting an officer who sits in your kitchen with you and talks about something, you're going to be standing outside. And we know that that's not the level of service we want to give, but unfortunately, it's all we can do right now.
Right. That's right. You're not just keeping yourself safe, you're keeping them safe.
Right. I mean, we have a lot of officers that would probably not ever show a symptom. So other than we hope that a low fever that we can catch on our daily screening, but they would walk around they're all pretty healthy, and they probably wouldn't get the severe form of it. And we don't want to get anybody sick.
Right. So now it's phase 2. At what point? Well, let's talk about phase 2. Well, before we get to phase 2, just recently we're hearing about these COVID scams. Have you up to date on some of the latest ones?
So the biggest thing going on in town right now is the unemployment fraud. We're getting 5 or 6 of those a day of people that are actually calling us. And so that means that's only a small sampling. A lot of people won't call once they know that they're not owed any money. So as far as the COVID scams, it's classic, solicitation of donations and GoFundMe pages being set up to raise money. And, that's the classic moves that they do around every tragedy.
So yeah, we have that scam. And has there been any more reports of the technicians want to come into the house? We still got that going on, or
we haven't had any more reports of that.
Okay, because a lot of people, I know they do that, and I know that the town shut off their permits to the solicitors, right, for the door-to-door.
Yes, if you have, no one is authorized right now to solicit.
Can you explain for the people at home, because now as the Commonwealth is opening, can you explain to our viewers what the policy is so they can, keep an eye out for their own neighborhood and be aware? Tell them what the policy is for people that want to
Sure.
do door to door.
If someone wants to solicit door to door, if they are a company, they have to become permitted as a company. And then each individual person becomes permitted, and they're given an ID from the town that we use. So you'll see them with a lanyard, and it's official town of Hopkinton solicitor permit. So if they don't have that, they're violating the bylaw that was approved at town meeting, and give us a call and we'll come out and explain the proper way to register.
And that's the first thing you should ask for if someone's at your door. Hey, do you have an ID? And they're not going to show you their license. They're going to show you that first, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Or they're going to say, oh, no, we don't need one, or they ran out. No, you don't run out of those things.
Right. And then we vet them. So what ends up happening is once people find out about that we have a permitting process, the typical, the magazine salespeople that come out, usually with the most criminal people involved, they all but disappeared once we implemented this.
Sure.
There were some people with some really violent history and a lot of property crimes coming from out of the state, and they put them in a van, drop them off all around town, and the bylaw put an end to that. So that was helpful.
I wanted to ask Chief on some of these so-called scams, and it's very hard for me as an elderly person to recognize what is a scam and what isn't. But when I see what I think are phony emails or a lot of robo phone calls, if I take down that information and send it to the police department, what happens to it? Do you follow up on it? Can you trace it down? How does that work?
So the phone ones are almost impossible to really follow through on. And if there's no actual loss, I mean, we get handfuls of those scam phone calls a day. Now we're getting 4 to 6 a day just on unemployment alone, let alone all the other ones. So we don't have the resources to go out and track that. And a lot of it is generated outside of the country. So we wouldn't have any authority to enforce it outside our borders anyways. If somebody does lose money though, what I want them to know is there's no shame in it. People are losing money every day. The sooner you do come to us, the faster we can act and maybe get your money back. But as days pass, the money just becomes vaporized, and so they're very professional. That money disappears out of the account or off that card that you give them quickly, and And you should know a few basics about scams. The IRS does not call people. They never will call you. Never once. So if they call you, we're not going to come arrest you because you owe property, because you owe your income tax. And the best thing to do with them is to listen for a little bit and waste their time a little bit if you want, or put the phone down, and in that 10 seconds is another call that they could have made. So as far as anything in the mail, be suspect of anything in the mail, and any grammatical errors. Look at the address lines, and if you do feel that you want to contact the person, let's say you get a letter from the IRS, go to their website and get the numbers and contact off of that. Don't click on any link in an email, and don't use any phone numbers that you're given. Go to the source sites and get that information from them and begin there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, if you ever tried calling the IRS, they don't even answer the phone, so they're not making phone calls.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, but we love the government. Yes. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Who's probably monitoring the show right now? They could be watching. I look out the window.
They probably own Zoom.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, I'll go on Facebook and there'll be an ad about IRS on there next. Okay. So other popular scams that I know that have been going on other than the IRS is you owe on a late gas bill. That was another one that was going around, I think, last year. I think those have died down a lot. But it sounds like your advice to viewers would be, if it sounds questionable, don't act on it right away. Don't think it's real, because, well, I did pay my taxes. Why is it saying that I owe taxes?
Sure.
Nine times out, oh my goodness, and no one is looking to give you money. And no, you are not related to a Nigerian prince who just passed away. Right?
Right, right. We're more than happy to look at what you've been given or talk to you about it. And Google is a great tool as well. You know, if you get something, if you take a couple sentences from the document, throw it in Google, search it, it'll come up. You know, I got this scam thread. You'll find out pretty quickly. Additionally, another sensitive population of the elderly right now.
I was just gonna say,
You
yeah.
know, they're sheltered in place, they're vulnerable, and they're subject to this time of the year. They'd be getting the calls about their grandson that is down in Mexico and got arrested or got in a car accident, and he has to pay for the repair of the car right now. You know, go to the store, get a card, and scratch the back off, or money wire money to somewhere.
Right.
Those are all scams, and they go through your information. They get information by listening at the doctor to when you give your name and address and your illness, and and you talk about your upcoming vacation in public. There's a lot of ways where we can share information that gives them just enough to bed a kernel of truth into their story, so they know. You know, if they see on your social media you wishing someone good luck going away, you know, they know the person's going away. They just need a little bit to get started, and then spend a few minutes just digging a little bit, and then they throw that kernel of truth that gets the hook, you know.
The social media was a big one, and as you now know, as I listen to the kids today, you know, Facebook, oh, that's for old people. So as I hear that, the Facebook scams that go on, two things. One, nice products that are real cheap, but the other one is where they play these games, like your Star Wars name is your birth month and birth year, whatever. And so they will take what you wrote and then say, oh, Mike Terosian's birthday is April of 1966.
Sure.
So again, that's how you give out information over social media publicly, not just to whoever is running that game, but people can read your social media if you don't have your settings set to private, which most people don't, because it'd be less social, I guess. But
it also can. I just learned that sometimes the settings during updates and stuff, the settings will change. Your privacy setting can actually be changed by an outside source.
They want it back to the public, right? And that's why another great thing is when you're logging into a site, would you like to connect via Facebook? Well, that basically means you're giving more of your information out to somebody else.
Absolutely.
You always want to create a unique username and password. I like the usernames better than giving your email address, because you can always create a new username or a unique username.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. It really is.
It's just one of the few things that I try to do to keep myself safe. So,
and then as far as your passwords go, it gets easy to use the same password, and we've all been told don't do that, and to have a complex password. I was District Attorney Mary and Ryan presented last week to the seniors in town, and if you make a password algorithm, if you will, if you use a word that's relative to the topic of the site you're going to, and then you can have a numbering series with a particular symbol, but then they're all different. And it's not like you wouldn't put HCAM 2020 with a star.
right.
You'd use a word like chat or mic or something that you remember. TV, right. And then you use that formula on all your different passwords.
Which is great. Now, the only trouble I run into, one of the best ones is on the telephone. So I log in my bank, but I have my thumbprint for the app.
Yep.
Well, I do more on my phone, so when it's time to go on the computer, oh, what's my right password? Now I'm locked out because I did it 5 times or something like that. Yes, passwords, and always too. Oh, when we open up the libraries and whatever again, log out of everything. Just don't X out the browser. Log out of everything.
Absolutely, and even our Chromebooks and our computers at home. Don't leave them, because to someone that's willing to break into your home, which fortunately is we don't have very much of that at all here at all, and especially now that everybody's home. But don't leave your devices around unlocked. And some devices don't. You shut the top like a Chromebook, you're still logged in, and it's saved all your passwords from all those
Right.
sites. And you given that $300 Chromebook just gave the keys to your financial kingdom away.
Yeah, it's funny because they do have apps that will manage your passwords for all these different sites, but if someone grabs a hold of that app and the data in there, then
Right.
it's toast.
It's like having the wallet, right? Where
Right.
you put all your type of cards and everything into it.
So now you mentioned earlier about how the seniors are the most vulnerable, which everyone loves to take advantage of a nice senior. Will you, once we start breaking things down, getting back out to the seniors and doing your little workshops and your little presentations?
Absolutely. So we had one virtually, but I think the turnout would have been much larger in an in-person presentation. One of the things I'm excited about is we created a elder affairs officer, Officer Molly McGaffigan.
Oh, excellent.
Was selected after she presented an amazingly well thought out and insightful proposal. And we're kicked that off, and we're doing everything we can to get her connected with the seniors. So instead of a pop-in type thing by a detective or me, we'll have a constant communication with them, building it on the same model that we use for the SROs, where having them around, making them feel comfortable with us.
It's a familiar face, yeah.
Yep, and having one point of contact. We're really excited about it here.
Well, that's fantastic. Because one thing that you can never say about Hopkins is not having community policing,
No.
because you're there in the neighborhoods. I mean, you ask any 27-year-old, 30-year-old, they'll tell you the best community officer was Officer Buckley. Hey, where's your helmet? You don't have one? Oh, here's one out of the trunk. I mean, I remember these things, and it's always about educating, and it's always about helping. It's not about, hey, you're without a helmet, let's go back in the cruiser, taking you home.
No,
it's never been like that.
That's not us. No.
Yeah. So that's like any more any little things. It's nice weather now. I saw Officer Stickney out on the motorcycle yesterday, having a good time, and I wish I was on mine, but
Yeah, I think we all got to find a way to comfortably get back out and get moving, support our local businesses and local merchants, and
which now we can, and which gets us to our next topic is phase 2.
right.
As the Commonwealth opens up a little bit more. I saw some people couldn't wait for Monday, and they cut the nylon ties on the basketball nets, so they were using the basketball courts this weekend.
Yeah, everything's in full use. That's for sure. The parks and the fields are definitely being utilized.
Right. And the most current topic is how did yesterday's demonstration go on the Common?
Oh, it was so amazing. It was really special, and the turnout. I took a rough estimate of about 500 people.
Well, that doubled from the first one.
Yes, and I actually am so happy that I went, because I got a lot of good feedback from the community that they don't feel that we represent what the murder of George Floyd has caused to tear at the trust of law enforcement. But I had so many people during my conversations with them say, thank you for what you do. We like the police, and we support the police and the way you police this community and serve this, and a lot of thank you for your service comments. And I kind of needed that for myself, because it broke my heart to see that happen. And Mike, I've worked hard my whole life to care for the people here, and
Absolutely.
And to have them think that I might, or any of us might act like that was.
I don't think you would have that problem there, Chief. I think the biggest problem is like what the big cities have, the outside groups there to stir things up to make a situation happen. I mean, I drove by before, I want to say like 2 hours before, and I didn't see a pallet of bricks dropped off on the car or anything like that. I didn't see any of the stores downtown boarding up any windows.
No.
But this was a true community event.
But even, yeah, I never doubted that our community would do anything like that. No, that's not going to happen for my residents. But I worried that maybe in their hearts and in the back of their mind, they maybe felt differently about us at HPD, but I saw none of that. So I went home feeling happy for a little bit there that had been missing. So thank you to everybody for all you said, and thank you for going out, and we were proud to stand with you.
Oh, that's excellent. That's great to hear. So now here we have phase 2, and what new things can I walk in the police station yet just to say hi, or do I still have to wait till I have an emergency? We're
still waiting because of us. So
Yes.
We haven't done that, but today we're in a staff meeting coming up, and we're going to talk about ways we can bring it in. I've ordered some plexiglass things so that I can get people into that inner conference room. And I have to work out a solution for fingerprinting to resume applicants and permitting.
So LTCs and so forth.
Yeah, and solicitors and everybody else, and a lot of it. We do a lot of employment fingerprinting as well. So
that's kind of tough to do out in a public area. It's
going outside.
Yeah, meet you out back. Catch me in the Sally Port. We'll let you. Yeah.
So in looking at it, our station is configured pretty well for. We can bring them in through a garage door, just as if where the prisoners move through.
Right.
And then the fingerprinting machine's right inside it. Well, you've seen it a bunch of times.
So, tell them why I've seen it, Joe, please.
Tell them why. As a reporter.
As a reporter. Thank you very much for that one. Bob, help me out on this, right? Just as a reporter, right, Bob?
You're guilty. Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't on, was it? No, you've been all over the police department, fire department, so I'm not surprised that you've had your fingerprints taken.
There you go. Did you have a question next, Bob?
No. I did have a question. I wanted to know, and you probably don't know, Chief, but I'll always ask it anyway. Do you have any idea when the town is projecting to open up town hall, library, those kind of services?
Yeah, they're working on it every day. Facilities is working on it, and they're trying to design a workflow and decide where people will be able to go, whether that means that people from the 3rd floor come down to the 2nd floor to a workstation or a kiosk, or where they need dividers for the employees, and how they're going to handle the big open area, whether there is a small section that has a glass window and a push through, but in the open floor design and the welcoming floor design, you also have that big open window that's 8 feet wide. So those are the things they're working through, and I'm not directly involved in it, but I've heard them talking about doing. But there is a sense of urgency to get the public back in there and be able to serve the people face to face, because some people will just want that. Even if it can be done by mail or online, they want to go into their town hall, and they should be able to. And we all support that.
Well, thank you for that insight, because I hadn't even given that any consideration in my mind. I was just thinking, oh, they're going to open the town hall, they're going to open the library. I can go back to doing things the way I used to. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. There'll be limited capacity based on the guidance from the state, and so that's especially hard for the library to manage, where that's so open, and the size of per person. I heard a number of 400 square feet per person. So my training room would be 3 people, 2-point-something people.
Right.
So it's tough. There's a lot of work everybody's doing, and that's all the senior leaders are working through that process now.
So I bet the officers are still liking taking their roll calls outdoors, huh?
Yeah, they do them in Zoom now in the car.
They're Zooming from the car.
Yeah. Oh, we use Hangouts. We're town's a Google shop, so
yeah, Google Shop, sure.
Yeah, and they're using some of the features within that to connect with the community as well. So
they don't have those fake backdrops like Mike does. It says they're behind the station.
Fake? What fake? Look at that. That's as real as it can get.
Hey, is that the farmer's market?
Oh no, that's your police night out.
Oh, nice. I like it.
Yeah, so your cruise is right there. See?
Oh, beautiful. I was probably standing there.
You were there because I got your picture earlier.
Okay.
the other
great,
side.
great.
So,
Funny, I saw the background on, we had a senior leader meeting last week, so Megan and I, the communications
Yep.
director, grabbed our lawn chairs and went up to the common and did it from there, just to get out. You
Yeah.
know? You know?
people are doing the best. I mean, I loved watching, I think it was a select board meeting, and one of the select members they were out on their deck. It's like,
Yeah.
what a way to go, you know? I could see, barbecuing up and
Yeah,
voting on a budget item or something. That's awesome.
exactly.
Just better be careful when you pick up your iced tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking about barbecuing, restaurants get to open with outdoor seating.
I'm very excited about that, and a lot of them have submitted their plans, and they look great. I've seen, and I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody off, but I saw the 110 Grill, I saw Cornell's, and I saw like 6 of them. But and they're working it through, and it's great.
Right, a lot of them are just waiting to get their alcohol license for outdoors because the town doesn't have an outdoor license. Well, licensing doesn't include the outdoors on a yearly license, so they have to get a special license for that. Correct?
Okay.
And so
Yeah,
I hear
but-
that. And do you see a problem? Are you involved in that process, and do you see a problem with that process?
I review them, and I think, why not? There's plenty of ways to, I think that one of the requirements should be probably to contain it, so you can't just take a beer and start walking around Main Street from the public house. But there is a way to build, like the 110 Grill. It has the little balcony area where
Yes.
on the sidewalk, and there's a fence there. I mean, could someone jump the fence if they're really determined? Of course, but
Yeah.
they're not walking back to their car with their full beer.
Yeah. You put them. You got them in a boundaries that they're just not walking away. And you also technically the bars aren't opening, and they're going to be limiting people to, I think, was it an hour and a half at a table or something.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have people stay there all day. So you're consuming food and alcohol for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And then that
Okay,
helps them
okay.
turn the tables faster.
That's right. Yeah, because
know?
they're only limited so many seats.
Right.
And so forth. So now where a lot of people, like we'll say Cornell's, is going out into the parking lot. You see traffic being an issue for emergency vehicles such as yourself or an ambulance or anything?
No, I mean, Fire Chief Slammin looks at the plans from that eye and protecting the response. And we also have to consider maintaining, say on Main Street, walkways for pedestrians just walking by the business. So those are all part of the permitting process, and each different department looks at it through their lens and
Sure.
protects those. I don't see, I think it's going really well. And
Oh, that's
they're
good to
training
hear,
hard.
because some people are tired of the styrofoam boxes, man. They want to get back and do
I know.
some eating.
Or spending your whole life in 2 places, like I
Oh.
was, here or at my house. Here at my house. That's it.
Well, at least you're lucky you get to go there. I can't even make it to the studio yet, so
Right.
we're-
Right.
that's happening next. So, what else are you looking forward to? We got about a minute left. What else is coming up that you're looking forward to? I mean, granted, we lost the fishing derby, we lose the police night out. Is there anything that you got left that you can give the community?
Don't forget bocce.
Yeah.
Bocce's is probably gone.
Yeah. We'll all bring our own individual balls.
Yeah, but I think the police department's happy they don't have to go back to play bocce.
Oh,
Those
is that
seniors
because?
really did it.
Oh, yeah. It would be nice to win one year.
Yeah, well, you did win once.
We did.
Yeah, I
One and
think
done, I guess.
That's when you got the medals too. I remember that.
Well, I guess that under my leadership, that'll have to be one of my primary goals.
Primary goals. Yeah. Well, we'll be talking to
Beat the red
Amy.
team.
We'll be talking to Amy on Friday, so we'll see what happens there. But Chief, thank you very much for coming on today. We're gonna get more updates tomorrow from Board of Health agent Sean McAuliffe and town nurse Casey Morrow. So we'll get some more insights of what's going on the inside. For Jim Cousins and Bob Hamilton, myself, Chief Bennett, and then we had Chris, James, and Stephen from the Knights of Columbus. Thank you all for coming on, and thank you for watching Hopkinton Hangout Hour.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mike.